Nobody respects you. You feel it, even if you don't want to admit it. It's not that they openly hate you or completely ignore you. No, it's worse. They tolerate you. They smile out of courtesy. They listen out of obligation. And you, like many others, mistake this for respect. But deep down, you know the truth. If you vanished tomorrow, the world would keep spinning, unchanged, unbothered. And do you know why? Because you never set boundaries. You were never consistent. You never stood as an authority. You were flexible. And in this ruthless world, the flexible bend until they break. The brutal reality is this: respect is never begged for. It's imposed. Not with yelling, not with violence, but with presence, with unwavering firmness. With a strategy so cold and calculated, even Machiavelli would have envied it. Respect doesn't come from kindness or affection. It's born from managed fear, from the unwavering consistency in your actions, from the brutal clarity of your limits. But here's the problem. Most people have boundaries as blurred as their identity. They contradict themselves, they make excuses, they bend, and then they cry when no one takes them seriously. Here's the raw truth. If people don't respect you, it's because they're not afraid to disappoint you. And if they're not afraid to disappoint you, it's because you never made it clear what would happen if they did. You're the kind who forgives without consequence, the one who hands out second, third, fourth chances until your so-called generosity becomes a joke. Machiavelli made it clear: those who seek to be both loved and feared end up despised. Why? Because they try to please while imposing, and that contradiction never works. Respect emerges from one crucial thing: predictability. True authority begins with one rule: predictable consequences. Not emotional, not impulsive, not filled with rage, just predictable, like gravity itself. If someone betrays you, they must know something will follow, and you won't need to shout or threaten, you just act. Once, twice, that's enough. People learn quickly when they know the consequences are non-negotiable. But you punish with looks, you forgive with words, and you contradict yourself with actions. Every time you do, your authority crumbles a little more. Have you ever noticed how some people just need to raise their voice and everyone goes silent? It's not magic, it's certainty. The certainty that crossing that line means there's no turning back. But punishment alone isn't enough. There's a more subtle art: the fear of regret. It's not about making them fear you. It's about making them fear disappointing you. Let them know that if they do, you won't scream, humiliate, or throw a dramatic fit. You'll just remove them from your life. No drama, no explanations. And that emptiness will sting more than any loud outburst ever could. The absence of someone who commands respect is heavier than the presence of someone who begs for it. Make them fear losing you. Let them know that if they fail you, you won't destroy them. You'll simply erase them as if they never existed. And that silence will echo louder than any threat. Now here's the difference between a leader and a tyrant: the window of redemption. One chance, just one, to make things right. Clear, limited, non-negotiable. People respect those who hold them accountable, but admire those who offer a path to redemption. But remember, only once. If you give them more, it's no longer redemption, it's weakness. Those who fail once and learn become stronger. Those who fail repeatedly and stay are just using you. Give them a second chance, but make it unmistakably clear: it's their last. And if they waste it, that's it. Don't just say it, prove it. Respect isn't declared, it's constructed through actions that leave no room for doubt. Most people fail because they punish with rage, reward with pity, and break their own rules out of love, friendship, compassion, or fear of loneliness. And what does that achieve? It makes them appear fickle, manipulable, weak. Because that's exactly what you are when you can't stand by your own decisions, when your hand trembles at the thought of enforcing your own boundaries. Authority isn't blind rigidity, it's unwavering consistency. And that, in a world where most can't even keep a promise, is pure power. Look around. Notice who truly earns respect. It's not the nicest, not the most charismatic, it's the most steadfast. The one who always acts the same, never betraying their own principles. People don't respect sympathy, they respect structure. People feel safe with someone who doesn't change their mind every week, who doesn't forgive today what they condemned yesterday, who doesn't embrace you if yesterday they expelled you. These people leave a mark, not because of what they say, but because of what they stand for. True respect is born when you know exactly what to expect from someone and still choose not to cross that line. Respect isn't an emotion, it's a strategy. You must choose between being liked by everyone or being respected by those who matter, because one cancels out the other. Those who chase approval always end up yielding, and those who yield stop being an authority. The worst mistake is to compromise your principles for acceptance. It's the perfect recipe for being quietly despised. They'll tell you they admire you, but they'll use you. They'll claim they value you, but they'll trample over you. Because those who don't impose respect become nothing more than a doormat. Plain and simple. There's a difference between being feared and being respected. Fear can be useful, but it's fragile. Respect, when built on consistency, is unbreakable. But it demands a cold cruelty, the kind that upholds limits even when it hurts, even when forgiveness seems easier, even when you're completely alone. Your power is measured when no one is watching, when you do the right thing, not for others, but for yourself. Because you know that breaking your own rules marks the beginning of the end. Respect starts when you refuse to betray yourself. Do you know what separates leaders from followers? Leaders have earned self-respect, and that radiates from them. It's felt, it's transmitted, it draws others in. The world doesn't follow the nicest, it follows the most coherent, the one who never doubts, even when everyone else wavers, the one who punishes fairly, rewards logically, and never strays for fleeting emotions. That person commands without raising their voice, without seeking attention. Because real respect, when genuine, doesn't need justification. Here's the truth no one wants to hear. If you're not respected, it's not the world's fault. It's yours. Because you taught them how to treat you. You were flexible when firmness was needed, silent when you should have spoken, forgiving when you should have closed the door, and now you live with the consequences. But there's good news. You can change it. Not tomorrow, today. With every decision you make, every rule you impose, every limit you uphold. You don't need to be cruel, just clear, consistent, firm, relentless. Respect is built like a wall, brick by brick, decision after decision. It's not fast, it's not easy, but it's eternal. And when you have it, you feel it in the way they look at you, the way they speak to you, and how they are cautious not to overstep. Because they know you don't hesitate, you don't forget, you don't give more than someone deserves. And in a world of softness and contradictions, that kind of strength is pure gold. Machiavelli wasn't advocating evil, he was defining power. And power isn't about dominating others, it's about dominating yourself. It's about not being a slave to your emotions, not letting guilt or fear steer you off course. It's about being a block of marble amid chaos, the one who imposes order in a world full of grays. And that's not achieved through speeches. It's earned through rules, consequences, and respect that's built, not begged for. Ask yourself this question: how predictable are you? Do people know what you will do if they fail you? Or do they still believe you can forgive everything? Because that's the core of respect, being known so well that they dare not test your limits because they know there's no turning back. And yet they follow you because they know that if you are in their life, it's because you're worth it. You give only one chance, but when you give it, it's real. You punish without hate and forgive without weakness. Your authority is not a mask. It's an extension of your identity. And here comes the final lesson. Not everyone deserves to be close to you. Respect is also selection. It's knowing who has proven to deserve your time, your energy, your trust, and ruthlessly cutting off those who haven't. Not out of spite, but out of self-preservation. Because respect starts with you. And if you don't respect yourself, no one else will. So stop justifying yourself, stop negotiating your worth, stop being accessible to those who have proven nothing. Apply the 3 rules: predictable punishment, fear of regret, and one window of redemption, and hold them no matter who you lose. Because respect is not about having many, but about having the right ones. And the right ones always respect those who never betray themselves. Welcome to the real game. Here, the one who talks the most doesn't win. The one who holds the most does. And you decide, are you going to continue being ignored, or are you going to become the authority that everyone prefers not to challenge? Respect is not asked for. It is imposed. And it is imposed in silence. Because here's where the part begins that almost no one has the courage to face. Most do not lose respect due to weakness. They lose it due to hunger. Hunger for attention, hunger for validation, hunger to be accepted. And in that silent need, they start to sell their power little by little with every "it's okay" they say when it wasn't, with every smile they offer to someone who doesn't deserve it, with every time they stay silent to avoid conflict, even if that means swallowing their pride. And here's the harsh truth. The respect that you do not give yourself, others discount it. If you act as if your presence were cheap, they will treat it as such. And the worst part is that the hunger for validation is never satisfied. Because every time you sell yourself for a bit of acceptance, you feel worse about yourself. And then you seek more validation. It's a cycle. The cycle of the weak. The cycle of those who lose. No matter how smart you are, how prepared you are, or how good your intentions are, if you do not master this hunger, you will continue to be surrounded by people who do not respect you. Because they sense your need, and respect slips away when they detect that you need it more than they need you. Here's another Machiavellian truth. Power is not based on how much you depend on others, but on how much they depend on you. And that is built not with false superiority or posturing, but with real value, by knowing how to say no, by disappearing when you are not valued, by not responding to messages that only appear when it suits the other person, by choosing silence over drama. Respect feeds on detachment, from that rare ability to leave without noise when the situation goes awry. Because the one who can leave has power, but the one who stays begging becomes a shadow. And we are not here to be shadows of anyone. Let's go deeper. Why is it so difficult to maintain personal authority over time? Because it's exhausting to sustain a standard when the environment is designed to lower it. Because living with clear rules makes you a threat to those who live with excuses. Because being coherent not only costs you energy, but also relationships. And that's where many fall. They want respect, but they are not willing to lose. They don't understand that gaining authority involves losing comfort. That the price of being respected is high, but the price of being ignored is devastating. And then they fall. Not suddenly, not with scandals. They fall little by little, with small concessions, with misplaced silences, with a, well, this time I'll let it go. And so respect dies, not with an explosion, but with sighs, with omissions, with decisions disguised as diplomacy that in reality are fear wrapped in courtesy. Do you want another fatal mistake? Excessive empathy. Poorly managed empathy is a poison that destroys your center. It makes you understand everyone except yourself. It makes you justify the unjustifiable. He's had a bad day. He's going through a lot. It's not his fault. And you? How many times have you used your own story as an excuse to cross someone's boundaries? None, right? Because you know that what's right does not change according to your mood, but you allow it for others. Why? Because you still lack self-worth. Respect isn't about how much you understand others. It's about how steadfast you remain in who you are, even when you do understand them. That's the line between a leader and a martyr. A leader understands but never betrays themselves. A martyr, on the other hand, surrenders, justifies, and burns alive so others can warm their hands. Here's something nobody mentions. Body language. No, it's not just a cliche. It's pure psychology. The way you step into a room, the rhythm in your speech, the silence you hold without feeling anxious, the unwavering gaze, even the way you breathe. It all screams your identity before a single word leaves your mouth. Do you know who commands respect without speaking? It's the one who has nothing to prove, the one who sits in calmness, unhurried, the one who looks without seeking validation, the one who doesn't laugh out of obligation, sending an unspoken message. I'm not here to please you. I'm here because I choose to be. That imposes. True leaders aren't loud. They're substantial. Their presence doesn't weigh because they intimidate, but because they don't vibrate with the same social anxiety as everyone else. They don't chase acceptance. They've made peace with solitude if necessary, giving them an edge at any table, in any game, in any battle. Now ask yourself, how many times have you betrayed your own essence just to keep others comfortable around you? How often have you pretended to agree, softened your stance, or stifled an opinion to avoid conflict? And what did that gain you? Nothing. Because people don't respect those who yield. They respect those who stand firm. And don't mistake this for arrogance. It's not about forcefully imposing yourself on others. It's about being so sure of who you are that no explanation is needed. Principles are not accessories. They're anchors. They keep you steady even when the whole world chooses to fall. When you practice this, something shifts, not in them, but in you. Your energy changes, your relationships purify, your time becomes sacred, and your movements become intentional. You're no longer available for just any plan, conversation, or person. You become scarce, and scarcity breeds respect. Remember this, respect isn't about controlling others. It's about mastering yourself, becoming someone so solid, so consistent, that the world has no choice but to honor you. Not because of what you shout, but because of who you are. Here's the real question. Are you willing to lose whatever it takes to become someone impossible to ignore? Because if not, you're just part of the noise. And noise eventually fades. Let's dig deeper because there's still plenty to uncover. One of the most silent yet dangerous ways to lose respect? Over-explanation. That compulsive need to justify every decision, every boundary, every no, as if the world demanded your constant accountability. Why do you do it? Because you fear seeming cold or being judged. But in reality, all it does is dilute your authority. The one who explains too much broadcasts insecurity. The one who justifies is begging for acceptance. True respect is forged in what you don't say. There's power in silence. There's impact in an unapologetic no, without excuses or excessive empathy. If something doesn't serve you, it's done. Period. You don't need to convince anyone. You're not the ambassador of your own decisions. Think of someone you genuinely respect. Can you picture them justifying their choices, constantly softening their stance to avoid ruffling feathers? Number, you respect them because their voice doesn't waver. Because when they say, "This is how it is," you know it's solid. No drama, no excess, no hesitation. And there's another modern poison of respect: digital omnipresence. Always available, always responding, always online. And the saddest part? You do it out of fear. Fear that someone will feel neglected if you don't show up. You're chained to the illusion that fast replies equal consideration. Number, they equal predictability. And predictable, without firmness, becomes disposable. People respect what's hard to reach, what isn't always available, what doesn't respond instantly, what doesn't succumb to the endless need for attention. Being accessible at all times turns you into part of the scenery. You blend into the background instead of standing out as the protagonist of your own life. Here's a concept that very few truly grasp: perceived value. And it has nothing to do with your talent, your intelligence, or your kindness. It's about how you manage your scarcity. If you're everywhere, voicing opinions on everything, saying yes to every plan, your value dilutes. Not because you aren't valuable, but because they can't distinguish you from the rest. Do you know who truly impacts? The one who appears with precision, not there for everything, but when they show up, the whole atmosphere changes. The one who stays silent for weeks, but when they finally speak, the air itself shifts. Their words aren't frequent, but they are definitive. Their energy isn't handed out, it's earned. And that brings us to another crucial point: energy as a non-renewable resource. Too many people give it away as if they had an endless supply. They waste it on conversations that lead nowhere, on explaining their vision to those who will never understand, and on giving themselves to people who don't know how to receive. What's the result? They become empty, burn out, faded, and the cruel truth? People respect less those who no longer shine. Your energy isn't for everyone. It must be selective, strategic, surgical, and that hurts because it means disappointing others, not responding, leaving messages on read, and being called arrogant, distant, cold. But it also means staying intact, and that's worth more than any label they put on you. There's something deeper here. Respect is born from how you treat your time. The person who respects their time forces the world to do the same. Who's always late? Who procrastinates? Who leaves things to chance? They send a clear signal. They don't even take themselves seriously. If you can't be punctual with your own goals, why would anyone else be punctual with you? Punctuality is not just about arriving on time. It's about being where you need to be, physically, mentally, and emotionally, when you said you would be, with your routines, your values, your plans. If you say you're hitting the gym at 7 and end up scrolling through TikTok until 8, what are you projecting? That you're negotiable, even to yourself. Now let's get to something even more delicate. Respect also crumbles when you beg for love. Yes, you heard that right. Begging for love is one of the saddest ways to lose your own authority. You do it when you tolerate minimal effort, when you accept half-hearted affection, when you celebrate crumbs as if they were feasts. The issue isn't that they don't love you as you deserve. The problem is that you let them do it their way, even when it breaks you. Respect starts with how you allow yourself to be loved, how you define what's acceptable, and how you react when someone doesn't meet your standards. It's not about being demanding out of pride. It's about knowing your worth and refusing to settle for less. Because every time you settle, the world takes note, and next time, they'll offer even less. Here's what those who command respect know by heart. Love without standards isn't love. It's attachment. And attachment isn't respected. It's exploited. Want a harsh truth? Admiration comes before respect. And no one admires someone who gives in without boundaries. The world respects the one who holds back, the one who has the power to act, but chooses not to use it impulsively, the one who could explode but remains calm, the one who could beg but simply walks away. That kind of self-control is magnetic. And this isn't just philosophy, it's biology. The human brain associates firmness with leadership. The limbic system responds better to those who project security rather than neediness. It's that simple. We are animals, and animals respect those who lead with presence, not those who tremble to please. So here's the conclusion. Right now, your respect doesn't come from your words, your appearance, or your achievements. It comes from how you handle conflict, how you stand firm when the world shakes, how you say, "This isn't enough for me," even when staying would be easier. If you master this, you won't need to shout, beg, or fight. People will know from the very first moment. That is true power. And no one can take it from you. Only you can give it away. The question is, will you keep giving it away, or will you finally hold your crown in silence? We're almost at the end, but right now is when you need to pay the most attention, because what's coming isn't a conclusion. It's a door. Listen carefully, because this is the part nobody tells you. Respect isn't something you earn once and carry forever. It's not a medal hanging on your chest or a trophy collecting dust on your shelf. Respect is a relentless, unspoken battle where your fiercest opponent is yourself. Your urge to back down, your craving to be liked, your fear of being abandoned, your thirst for validation. True respect doesn't thrive on momentum. It's forged every single day, in every word you choose not to utter, in every boundary you decide to uphold, and in every person you have the courage to release. And here's a truth you need to carve into your soul. People will always treat you the way you teach them to. If you reveal weakness, they'll exploit it. If you display neediness, they'll manipulate it. But if you radiate integrity, if you make it clear that your presence is a privilege, not an obligation, they'll either rise to meet your standards or walk away. And if they walk away, good. Because one of the most radical forms of respect is mastering the art of being alone without feeling hollow. Real respect isn't about gathering crowds that cheer for you. It's about keeping a few who wouldn't dare to cross your lines. Now here's the ultimate twist. The most powerful way to earn respect is not needing it. It's doing what's right, even when nobody's watching. It's sticking to your values, even when nobody acknowledges it. It's walking upright while everyone else is crawling. Because the moment you become self-sufficient, when you stand strong without witnesses, without validation, without applause, that's when the universe takes notice. Not because you made a scene, but because you became unstoppable. This is where our journey ends, but your battle is just beginning. You already know what needs to change. You know where you've been falling short, and most importantly, you understand that respect isn't begged for. It's constructed, lived, and demanded with presence, restrained power, and unyielding consistency.